Yeah, I really got, it's funny, after a lifetime of like never networking, never leveraging a relationship, never, just being like, I'm gonna do it myself. And then at the end, it was like, oh, I can just like call people or text them and ask them questions. What
Yeah.
a bizarre concept.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have been doing this all along.
There's one thing I value, it's real talk.
Oh, I am so excited to have you as a guest on Real Talk. I have a strong desire to have real conversations with real people,
Real recognize
and
real,
and you to me are super real.
Oh,
And this season has the same questions for every guest. It talks about pivots. And like I was expressing to you earlier, there's so many reasons why I'm excited you're here with us today. But I think our military, our active duty, and our veterans, like they pivot a lot.
oh yeah.
And one of the most major pivots they face is the pivot from going from the military into the civilian life. So I just thought you were just a great person to be on here. And I've also watched you like build and transition into a data career. So before we go into all the questions, tell everybody who you are and tell us a little bit about you, Major Data.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Robin. I am Albert Bellamy. Early in my military transition, I got a chuckle out of an audience by saying I'm the Marine that smiles at spreadsheets. And I'm
Okay.
stuck with that tagline ever since. It drives my wife absolutely nuts. I have been recognized in public a couple of times, and people will come up and say, "Are you the Marine that smiles at spreadsheets?" She just rolls her eyes and groans, and it's okay. I'm a
Yeah,
celebrity.
that's awesome
It's all
though.
good. But I did a full career in the Marine Corps, hence all the junk on the shelves behind me. It's not all military now. Yeah, I got some
Yeah,
different stuff
you're
in there.
adding to it. I see. I
Yeah. Oh
see.
yeah. It's changing, ever
Yeah.
changing. But yeah, you're not wrong. It was when we first met, I was mid retirement,
Okay.
and one of the things that you don't really realize is that such things happen in stages. It's not a you don't have a ceremony and then it's like congratulations, take off your uniform and you're done. It's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
this evolution.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a very, go back to your term, a very pivotal time for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of the things that you said that first podcast we did together really stuck with me and, guided me. And, I've really valued the fact that we've kept in touch ever since.
That's awesome.
But it's been an interesting evolution through a couple different jobs and a lot of different creative enterprises. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
it
you're
just
kind of
continues to
you're
evolve.
very entrepreneurial. Like I see you as very entrepreneurial. Have you always been entrepreneurial, or is that just born out of where you are in your life right now?
So I instinctively I say no because I never intended to start a business. I never intended to be a content creator or any of these things. I still roll my eyes when someone says influencer. I like to qualify by saying like micro influencer or nano influencer or something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
But yeah, this was never my plan. I honestly planned I was going to take my pension from the military and, use that to live a life to which I was not accustomed and just be a salary man for somebody else for the rest of my
Okay.
life. And I sort of stumbled into this thing, but looking back, I always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. It's just when you're serving in the military, there's just no room for anything else. Like
Yes.
you've got the Marine Corps, and then your family's,
Yes.
gets whatever's left, and then that's it.
Yes.
And so, hats off to anybody that manages to start a business or do anything for themselves while they're serving, because that is borderline impossible.
I just don't. Yeah, it's not like really not structured to allow for that, which for
No,
obvious reasons.
yeah, it eats your life.
Yeah, it is your life, and it is the life of your family too. Like your family's there. So I of course, and I've shared this with you. Like I never served in the military, but my father was in the Navy during the Vietnam era. But he wasn't a career Navy man.
Yeah.
My two brothers joined the Marine Corps somewhere slightly out of high school, maybe some college there. They were both career Marines. And I watched them live all over the country, live all over the world. And then I watched them retire. And it was hard to watch it because I'm watching what I would consider very decorated careers make a pivot into a civilian world that doesn't necessarily, like, unless they have military in their life around them or been in the military, they don't really understand the transition. Like, you coming from a highly structured process, procedure oriented world, told where to go, there's a chain of command, and then we thrust you out into the civilian world. And it's like, you go into a company, you're expecting there to be rigor and process and procedure, and it's like, maybe it's Keystone Cops.
Yeah.
And then you're like, it's just hard to watch.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch, but
hard to go through.
watching you has been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I scooted forward past one of the most painful phases for most people. And I tell people that I often downplay it and say I was lucky. It wasn't really luck. It was just I knew precisely what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I'd known it from like halfway through my Marine Corps career. It was like,
Okay.
hey, I know exactly what I want to be as soon as I take off this uniform. I didn't really know exactly, but I knew what kind of lane I wanted to swim in.
Okay.
Most people don't have that. And some of them just grind themselves to dust right up until their last day in uniform. And then they take off the uniform and they say, okay, now what?
Yeah.
You're way behind if you do that. And I've known lots of good and honorable people that did that. And if I had the wherewithal and if I was around them, I recommended against it. But that's some people's path. And I mean, I know a guy that got out kind of disgruntled and did that, kind of an abrupt exit. It wasn't anything dishonorable, but he was
ready to go.
He didn't have the exit that he wanted, and he really had to decompress.
Yeah.
Man drove an Uber for a year.
Okay.
That's not the worst plan I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's exceptionally hard.
Yeah.
For me, because again, like, after watching the sacrifices of my family for over 2 decades times 2, you want them to be able to go in and like continue the type of, like, it's a continuum, like it's consistent, like, you don't seriously all we got's Uber drivers. Now, again, like, I understand for some people that's a choice that they're making.
He chose that, and
we're all yeah.
There were times during COVID where I was in a leadership team. It was a battalion commander, I was the executive officer, and the sergeant major, and the three of us would just sit there. Sergeant major and I especially would just sit there and go, maybe once we retire, we can just go full Forrest Gump and just cut somebody's grass.
Yeah.
Like, that might not be the worst thing in the world. Yeah.
But
you're just like, I don't want to lead anybody. I'm good. I've had enough of that. Let me just get my head on straight for a bit.
That's definitely very interesting. So some of that, I guess. Yeah, there's you make a lot of choices.
Yes.
Right. And you don't get to make a ton. I mean, you do make choices. I'm not saying that the military prevents you from making any choice, but like, when you join the military, you're sort of giving up a lot of your choice, right? And so, I can see if you retire and you don't want to lead people, like, there's some joy in going, hey, I think I'm done with that. Let me go this route.
Well, and you get decision paralysis. I mean, I remember days when I would come home and I would just kind of sit on the couch. I mean, and these were office days. They weren't, but it was just decision, decision, decision. And I would get home and I would sit on the couch, just take my coat off and grab a beer and stare at the wall. And my wife would say, "What do you want for dinner?" I said, "Don't care." She'd say,
Don't
"Beef
care.
or chicken?" And I'd say, "I am literally incapable of making another decision today. I am begging you to just pick something and
Please
cook it.
make
I
a
don't care."
decision. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
would
been
think
there
that
many
you're a
times.
data person though. So like your threshold of reaching
Yeah.
that is probably higher than
It was
most.
pretty high. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a whole lot of choosing stuff all day.
Yeah. Yeah. But it happens. I sometimes have the same, like, please don't ask me because I really don't care. Just go with your gut. I'm going to go with just, that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
because we do make a lot of decisions. And in some cases, we're making decisions that impact other people, impact system design, software design, data relationships, like all those things. So I want to talk about your earliest career related pivots. Like, what are some of the earliest things that you can remember pivoting in your career? Because you clearly have demonstrated you're capable of pivoting.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And so many people,
probably to a fault at some point.
well, but it's okay. Like, you're in tech, you got to pivot. Like when you watch some of the other guests, you'll be like, oh, wait. There are people who refuse to pivot. They refuse to change. They get stuck in their head. But you have definitely demonstrated the ability to gracefully pivot. And yeah, I just want to hear about some of those earliest career related pivots.
I mean, the first big one was coming home and telling my mom I was dropping out of college and joining the Marine Corps.
Okay.
Yep, that was a tough one, and that was really the first one the first time I said, I choose me, and this is something that I need in my life. At the time, I was going nowhere. I was gonna graduate eventually, but yeah, just had no plan, no discipline, and I just said, I need something different in my life to be the kind of person I want to be. And so that was a tough one. Pretty tough on her too. She did not see it coming. But,
what year was this?
1997.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that I can see that being a time where, going home and like, I remember my mother and my father. Well, I think my father drove my oldest brother. He's like, no, we're good.
Yeah, he was like, no, you need this. Let's go.
This is what you need to do. But my second brother, I'm not, I think he decided this was a career pivot for him as well. So had you grown up with a military family, or was this were you the first in your family to join the Marines?
Much like your dad, my father was in the Army during Vietnam. He was counter intel something. So he was not in Vietnam. He was listening to the Russians in a secret location.
Okay. Oh, cool.
But yeah, just 4 years and said, this is not for me.
Okay.
Yeah, my grandfather was in the Battle of the Bulge.
Okay, so you got a little
military that's about
history there. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, my dad was in the Navy. Both my brothers were in the Marine Corps. I had several cousins, uncles, and otherwise. Pretty much seemed like a lot of them were in either the Navy, a handful of Marines. My dad always makes a Navy joke about how to create two Marines, as you can imagine, with him being in the Navy and my brothers being in the Marine. And then it looks like you got some logistics, like one of your early career pivots, which I love this, logistics to artillery.
Yeah. So when I enlisted, and I, at that point, I basically just talked to the Marine recruiter and I said, what do you got? And my standardized test scores were off the chart. So he said, we can do whatever you like. I had a few run-ins with the law, so was not getting a high-level security clearance was not for me. So he wasn't putting me in for counterintelligence at that point. But yeah, logistics was a thing. So and it meant that I could go ship to Paris Island right away, and I said, I'll take it.
I'll go. Yeah. I love Paris Island. It is a sweaty place.
It is.
I cannot imagine doing boot camp in Paris Island in the summer.
Yeah, I went back years later
during the summer, and I thought I was going to die just at graduation.
Yeah, just watching. I went back years later, and I was like, "Yep, this is as gross as I remember." It's a lot smaller than I remember. It seemed like it was this all-encompassing hell
Oh
on
yeah,
earth when I was a recruit there. And then when I went back and I was kind of taking a jog around, I was like, this place is tiny.
yeah.
Anyway,
Well, I watched
everything
my
looks smaller when
brothers.
you're older.
Yeah, I watched my brothers graduate
Hmm.
from there, and I remember going back to watch my nephew, he's about 2 years in, I think,
Hmm.
watching him graduate, and I felt like, wow, this does seem a little bit smaller as an adult, but it was definitely hot.
Yeah.
It's definitely a hot experience.
Yes.
So it does. Okay, so logistics to artillery makes sense to me. Like when I'm thinking about, okay, this guy's major data, there's so much data in logistics.
There is lots of data in artillery.
Intense. And then yes, artillery.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, talk and you mentioned like you have a pivot from artillery to analytics. I think that's interesting. Talk to me about, like, is that how you knew what you wanted to do? Was because you'd been exposed to this stuff in the military?
I
Like,
kind of
talk to me
knew
about
it
that.
anyway. There were a couple different chances I had to go to naval postgraduate school,
Mhm.
and I had heard of, when we called analytics something totally different in the military, it was ORSA, so Operations
Okay.
Research Systems Analysis.
Okay.
And I had friends that had gone into the school. I put in for it at one point, retracted the application, wanted to continue building my career in artillery and leading Marines. And that, yeah, then towards the end, it was like, okay, well, I need to do this now, or it's never going to happen. And so, yeah, got a distance degree in that, and fully intended to stay in the Marine Corps and do that in uniform.
Okay.
And then it got to the point, COVID happened, and I
Mhm.
was, kind of like, okay, I think I'm done with this.
Yeah.
And doing ops research in the military would have involved moving back to DC, which I'm not a big DC fan
Yeah.
in general. It's not a good place to be stationed in the military.
Yeah.
And and then my kids were in high school, and I wanted to keep them where they were. I'd moved them plenty of times already, so I said, all right, we're committed to North Carolina. We're staying here.
Okay.
And then I sometimes joke, it's not really a joke, I actually did this. I sat down at the computer and typed into the Google search bar, what is data science? And yeah, the rest was history, I suppose.
I would just love to believe that it said, oh, follow Robin Hunt.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
I'm
sure
sure it didn't. I'm sure it didn't.
I
But it would
did.
be
I
awesome.
started looking for podcasts, and sure enough, one popped up with a dude in Greensboro, North Carolina, that was called "How to Get an Analytics Job." So I was like, "Well, that seems like a natural fit."
Okay. Okay. Now I like that. I like
Yeah,
that. I actually spoke on that. I think because you asked me
yeah,
to be there, and I remember that being a very enjoyable experience. I enjoyed the talk with him, but I also enjoyed like working with you
yeah.
on the way through the process, and Claudia, who you know, and she also
Hmm.
adores you. Like
Oh,
we just remember just being like, okay, this guy's got it together. Like he totally gets what we're trying to do here. Because oftentimes we get off we get asked to speak, and
hmm,
it's kind of like show up and do great. I'm like, wait, no, nobody can just show up and do great. So
yeah.
like planning and process, and so we connected on that with you all that time ago. But then I've maintained watching you, and I also love Abe Diaz. Shout out to him.
Yeah,
Um, Watching you
Data
guys make
Strangler.
this, yes, he's funny with
He
his
is.
little AI generated imagery.
Yep.
I love that. And I feel like he could beat people up with jujitsu or however you say it. I mean,
He's
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 really
good.
into
Yeah,
that.
he talks about it, and my eyes kind of glaze over. It's not really my
It's
thing.
great to love
Yes,
things,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
It's so
I
great to love
enjoy
things.
listening to him talk about things that he's passionate about.
Yeah, but I've enjoyed watching y'all from my perspective, and I mean, like I don't know everything, but
Hmm.
like when I look at y'all, I go, gosh, I hope that there are veterans who are watching and seeing what these guys are doing. Because I mean, I've been watching you do this for years now,
Yeah.
and watching you pivot through all of it, right? Like you have been making spectacular pivots, and not like you're pivoting out of doing anything, you're pivoting into it.
Yeah.
And I love the opposite of that. Like we talk about pivoting as changing and you're moving out, but like I'm watching you pivot in.
Yeah.
And I think it's inspiring.
Thank
Like, so how do we tell veterans, obviously, and anybody else, like, how do you, and I want to call you Al, but you may want to go by
It's
Albert. I'm
okay.
calling you Al, whatever.
You know, that
Like,
was one of my first big LinkedIn posts, was me reclaiming the name Albert. And I have a history with that. And it's the grandfather at the Battle of the Bulge.
yeah.
I was named for him. He was an
Okay.
Albert as
So,
well.
I mean, I'll call you Albert.
Yeah.
But when I'm being in mid, I might just say Al.
That's fine. I respond to either.
That's, yeah. So how do you, or did you know that you had this either skill set or natural inclination? Is it both, to be able to go, you know what, I'm pivoting out of this and into this? Like, it's a certain amount of courage that is required there. Like, what gave you that courage? What helped you make the pivot?
Yeah, I don't really know. That's an interesting question. I definitely had examples growing up of people that would just make big moves. My
Okay.
mother, my stepfather would, they made massive career changes midlife
Okay.
before that was as common. Pretty common now, but yeah, watching people that had the guts to say, "Hey, we're gonna be broke for a little bit." It's not, we're not gonna, the bills are gonna lag behind a little bit, but this is important.
Yeah. I
Um,
definitely think it takes guts.
yeah, my stepfather probably overdid it a little bit. He was kind of a job hopper,
Yeah.
but so I've definitely seen that on the positive side and the negative side. And so it caused me to do both. It caused me to have the guts to be able to do it when the time was right, but also to have the kind of the wisdom and analytic fiber, gumption, whatever, to actually look at it and say, okay, does this actually make sense, or am I just going on vibes, or just gut?
I think that's good.
Yeah, am I just mad today because it's Tuesday and somebody said something mean to me, and like life's not actually that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but you sort of knew that you wanted to do data, right?
Yeah.
Like, you kind of had an idea that you wanted to do data. And so you knew, like, that was going to be your step out of retirement, out of active duty, and into data. But did you know, like, what you were getting yourself into?
Oh, I don't think anybody ever knows.
Yeah,
The
because
running
data is
joke.
like, what is data? And I
Yeah,
tell people, like, it's
exactly.
the ocean. Like, it's full of everything.
But it
So,
helped that, so number one, I had people that went ahead of me, friends that had done ORSA in the Marine Corps and then gotten out and gotten
okay,
jobs.
okay, okay.
So
So
I had
examples.
people that I could call and say, okay, well, what does this look like? If I go do this at the Pentagon, what does that look like? And I had a friend
Mm,
up there. And then I had a friend that, like, hey, if I get out of the Marine Corps and do this on the outside, what does it look like? And they said, it's great. You're basically doing the same thing, just you're working with different kinds of data. But yeah, I really got, it's funny, after a lifetime of like never networking, never leveraging a relationship, never, just being like, I'm gonna do it myself. And then at the end, it was like, oh, I can just like call people or text them and ask them questions. What
yeah,
a bizarre concept.
yeah.
Maybe I should have been doing this all along. But
Again, I don't know that the military is really structured for that.
not
Like, when
really.
you're in it, I don't.
And you don't really have choices most of the time. Like I
Yeah.
remember when I went to Quantico, 2016, I went from an artillery unit to Quantico and I had to work at Manpower, which was great because I managed to get my master's degree mostly done there. I got to go work at DARPA. There were just all sorts of crazy cool things I got to do. I ran my last marathon there. I mean, I was doing awesome stuff there, but just the daily work was kind of awful, even though it was somewhat analytical. And I managed to take the work that I was doing there and make that into my master's thesis. It was just kind of soul crushing work, and I didn't enjoy
Just
it
fun
on a
for
day to
you.
day
Yeah.
basis. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was something where Like I didn't have the choice. It was like, you can take this set of orders or this set of orders. Pick.
Yeah.
You got 24 hours to decide. So yeah, you don't really have the chance to sit there and mull it over. You don't
Right.
really, it's not like regular life choices where you're like, oh, I got to decide this between now and like 6
Yeah.
weeks from now.
Yeah.
No, it's
Well,
like,
too,
I
in
need an answer
tech,
tomorrow.
like we encourage networking and
Yeah.
ideation and collaboration and inventing new things. Again, I just don't feel like our military is necessarily structured to encourage people to go network outside of
No.
their duty station, and that's fine, because again, like there's the process and procedure, and like we need that, right?
Yeah.
I think it just makes it spectacularly hard to transition. If your first career working experience is so procedurally controlled, then I feel like going out into the civilian world has to feel like a spinning top.
Yeah.
But
That, and
not
you kind
all
of,
corporations are not like, there are
yeah,
policy and procedures and all that. I'm not suggesting
sure.
that like it's carte blanche, whatever, but most people are going to go work in small business. There's more small businesses than all the big businesses, and like you're going to get a flavor of all those
Yeah. Well,
different
and
experiences.
like when you were talking earlier, I kind of, something occurred to me that being in the military, we sometimes we jokingly refer to it as you're being babysat, because you've got someone to tell you when you have a dental appointment, and you have someone that schedules your dental appointments and makes you go to, and it's like that with everything. You've got to go to the
Yeah.
doctor, you've got to get this shot, you've got to go. It's almost like, kind of like being like a professional athlete or a rock star or someone that has like this very singular purpose. Like if you're a rock star, your job is to get yourself on stage every night, play guitar for 3 hours, and then that's it.
Yeah, and rock out when you do it.
Yes. But you
Yeah.
have people to handle everything else. So like you never have to cook a meal. You never have to
I
figure
enjoy the
out.
military right after this conversation.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Nice.
I'm too
Um,
old. I'm aged
but
out.
you never have to like schedule a plane flight to your
Yeah.
next gig. Somebody else does that for you. In the military, it's somewhat akin to that, and you can get very used to that because you're an asset. You are a person with a
Mhm.
single skill set, and your
Mhm.
job is to employ that skill set all day every day, and somebody will take care of, hey, you bounced a check, like go cover it, or hey, you're in trouble for this, or your uniform's not right. Somebody will correct you on all of those things. You don't have that outside of the military, and you
Uh,
kind of miss it. Like,
I bet.
yeah, I went like a year and a half without going to the dentist, and my wife had to tell me like, hey, when was the last time you went for like a cleaning? And I'm like,
I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
I used to
Did
have a
you
first sergeant that
schedule
would tell me to do that. Now, like, nobody tells me to do that.
it?
She's my first sergeant. But anyway.
I think it's interesting though too, like just hearing something you said. Like this is your skill set. This is what you do. Like go there, do that.
Hmm.
And what I love about data analytics is that it's a skill set, and I can go anywhere and I can do that skill set leveraging all sorts of things. But like I'm not having to deviate from the skill set. But like what I'm doing from all of the skills I've built may be different. So it's like I feel like I have a little bit of stability. Like I'm solving problems with data tools, data solutions, queries, codes, whatever. But I'm always bringing data to the table and all of those core skills. So when you're talking about just doing the skill,
Yeah.
but it's fewer skills. Data has tons of skills,
Yes.
right? And so that makes it great and also hard. Tell me about the time, and I like this story that you've put in here, but like breaking expectations. So we ask, when have you broken, like when has your ideas been spectacularly broken in data? Yeah, I want to hear you talk about like once you learned something about data that you weren't prepared for, it broke your expectations.
Yeah. Is that the master's thesis story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
At the time we had a commandant, which is the senior officer in the Marine Corps, which the structure of the military doesn't work the way it does in the movies. Like there's one officer who's the senior officer in the Marine Corps. He's a 4-star general, and he's in charge of all the Marines, but he's not in charge of like fighting wars. That's other people handle that.
Okay.
He's in charge of like, what do the Marines do? What's our, what's our mission for the next 4 years? How are we living our lives? Can we grow mustaches? Can we get tattoos? All that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. He does the rules essentially. We had a guy, and I won't name any names, but
Yeah.
he would do things based on vibes. He had a hunch, or he had a wild idea, or he had something he always wanted to do, and he was like, we're doing this, we're doing it. And a lot of those things would come down to us at Manpower in Quantico, and it would be like, I don't care how you get it done, just execute.
Mm.
And a lot of the things, because he had kind of broad budget authority, he could say, this is going to happen, and we're allocating X million dollars to make it happen. Wasn't so good at making sure we had the people to get it done, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah, you say Manpower, you immediately think my
yeah, we don't
idea
have
of
any
manpower.
manpower. We control the manpower for the rest of the Marine Corps. But we don't get anybody.
Right.
But there were programs that he put in place, and he was like, well, I think this is a good idea, so bingo. And he waved his magic wand, and suddenly there was a program for that. A lot of the things, knowing the guy and his reputation, a lot of the things we were like, okay, there's no way this was planned. Plus, the actual Manpower analysts worked one floor above me in the building, and I would go talk to them because, these were a lot of the people that were in analytics and getting out of the Marine Corps and going into analytics on the civilian side. So I was buds with them anyway. And a lot of them had done the same program that I was doing. And so I would go talk to them and just be like, hey, did you all do any study on this? They're just like, nope, none. And so I saw an opportunity there. One great thing I heard from my thesis advisor, I didn't get much from the man, but he did give me one great piece of advice. And it's a piece of advice that I spread to analysts everywhere. And it's this: hey, it's great that you have intellectual curiosity, and that is wonderful. And it's great that you have an analytical mindset and you see problems and you want to solve them. That is admirable. Very rarely do you have the time or the resources or the opportunity. UPS man driving by? Anyway.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you have what you need to actually identify a problem, go get data, analyze said data, prepare. Something's going to break down in that chain. You're going to get bored and pissed off. So the best thing you can do is kind of get that Venn diagram where it's like, my curiosity and my awareness of problems is right here. And also this giant mountain of available data is right here. Where does that overlap? Find something in there where you can do a project, especially in the constraints of a remote master's degree program where you've got a couple of months to put together your thesis project. Of that, maybe you've got a month or 6 weeks to gather data.
Yeah. So don't try to solve world hunger.
You're not doing a survey. You're not, none of that.
Peace.
Yes, none of that is happening. Start with mountain of data.
Yeah.
Find a problem you can solve with it and go that way.
Good. That's good.
So I did that. We had a mountain of data on one of these kind of harebrained programs that had been foisted upon us. And once I started breaking down the data, it was like we had kind of had this idea like, hey, it's not well researched. We know this. This is not well planned. Once I started breaking it down, it was like, oh, not only is this a massive money toilet, it's actually kind of counterproductive, because throwing money at people to re-enlist early was actually encouraging the wrong or the not as right kind of people to re-enlist. And the people that were actually kind of conscientious and thinking about whether or not they wanted to re-up for 4 years missed out on the opportunity, and they were like, okay, cool, I'm getting out then. So we actually, like, in an effort to improve the quality and completeness of the re-enlistment class, we actually drove down the quality of individuals that were re-enlisting. Luckily, that program only lasted as long as that man was in the commandant's seat, and then it was kind of quickly. But yeah, my master's thesis, it didn't prove anything because we don't prove nothing in data analytics. We show probabilities. But another argument I had with my thesis advisor, he's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't prove anything. I was like, what do we prove? Like, it's probabilities, man. Anyway,
Right. That's
nothing like
good.
explaining to your thesis advisor what analytics is. But anyway, but yeah, that was an eye opener for me. It was like, oh, yeah, spending a bunch of money on things can often have second and third order effects that are, in fact, the polar opposite of whatever
Of what
you
you're trying
intended.
to achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a critical skill to be able to look at a program and evaluate a program.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of I'm part of a multidisciplinary data science team that does program evaluation.
Right.
And when you can look at a program and determine that, well, not only is it not achieving what you hoped, but is actually causing the opposite to occur, I think that's probably pretty good for you to figure that out pretty early on in your career. It's probably giving you a lot of things in your toolkit that
Yeah.
you can then go look at other problems with the same program evaluation view.
Yep.
That would
I
be
mean,
my
it
guess.
also, there were so many other lessons with that, just in, you've always got to kind of examine stakeholder motivations and
Yeah.
biases, because I tried to pitch this to my boss and he wanted nothing to do with it. And at the time, I was a little dumbfounded. It didn't take too much later to realize, hey, here's a guy with one of his junior officers basically saying that the commandant's pet project is not only a complete waste of money, but totally counterproductive. That's not going to look real good for him. So he wanted to keep that as quiet
Uh,
as possible.
I think there's a good lesson in that though.
Yeah.
Right. There have been several times in my life, in my career, where I could study something that would have been amazing and could have done so many things, but it wasn't what the money was intended for. It wasn't what we were trying to do. It was secondary to the goal. And that stuff hurts your feelings when you really want to do it, but it is common. Like when we are charged to do certain things, we're charged to do those things.
Yeah.
And like you really kind of have to hold yourself to it, right? Like if they say, hey, we don't, like, you can't just go forward and study something, when they say, oh no, we don't want to study that, you can't, you're not really, you're not really allowed to just go continue it.
Yeah. Well, that, and like, it illustrated something for me that's become kind of a calling card much later. But at the time, I was still kind of the truth shall set you free. Let's be brutally honest. Like, why
Yeah.
are we hiding from? And it was, I never sold the thing. I never sold the value of it to my boss. And so, when I came to him and basically was just like, look, here's the thing that I found. And he's like, well, piss off. I don't care. I was actually on my way out of the unit at that point, so he didn't owe me anything. And in hindsight, it was like, I did a terrible job of selling the value of the thing. I should have
I
been
mean, there
in
was a lot of
advocate mode.
value from a
Absolutely.
program evaluation standpoint. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like you wish people, when you know about program evaluation and you care about hitting marks, like you do want people to be like looking at the program critically. But you definitely have to do that in a safe space. It sounds so silly to say that, but like people do not like to have their data shown to them.
No.
Unless
Not
it's showing exactly what they want to see.
Yes. If it's confirmation, they're great.
It's great. But if it's like, this isn't quite, there's ways you do learn ways to address that over time. But I do think there's value even in stories like this where it didn't turn out the way you thought it was going to turn out. Like you already sort of knew it wasn't working. Now you're going to prove it. I still think there's value in understanding, like, you did that experience, it taught you things, and you've been able to carry those things forward. Again, back to your ability to just pivot in. Like, okay, well, I'm going to lean into this and I'm going to learn from it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to continue down that path. I got to pivot. So I love that. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah, and you can have every right answer in the world, but if you don't know how to convince somebody of that, in a way that they're going to be receptive to it, it's worthless.
Oh yeah, it's just vapor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you
May
can go
sound
sit in a
good when you
corner and
said
be
it.
right all day long. It's not going to do anybody any good.
Not going to do anybody any good. Well, we're getting close to the end here, and I definitely want to hear about when you broke someone else's expectations. I love this. You have, and I don't know if we want to say the names, but you list a project here and you list a person here. I would say be careful if you can say them or not, but I definitely want to hear about this moment in your career when you actually broke someone else's expectation.
Yeah, it was. No, I can absolutely say the name because he's. I considered the man a mentor at least
Okay.
for a short period of time, and still hit him up every once in a while.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a data scientist at Omnicom,
Okay.
and he had a project for a very large client that makes movies and is like $1 billion company. And
Okay.
but it was kind of, I would say it was beneath him, but it was something that was in the maintenance phase. He had built it, and it was the world's largest and most unwieldy and awful Ultrix workflow.
Okay.
And he was basically told, hey, pawn this off on a more junior analyst that can run the Alteryx portion of it.
Okay.
And when they showed it to me, I mean, I was just like, they said, can you handle this? My mind was screaming no.
Yeah.
Like I looked at it, I was like, I can barely understand half of what's going on with this thing.
Yeah.
But I knew that I loved working with Alteryx, and it just worked. The graphic user interface was just, I was in love with it, and I wanted to play with it all day long.
Yeah.
And I said, sure,
I'll do
why not?
it.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But
Back to the guts.
so Wayne and I worked together for, I think it was about like 2 months, just
Okay.
handing over this, and it would explain like one portion of it to me at a time. We would spend like 2-3 hours together working on this thing. And at one point, he just thanked me for basic competence. And I laughed a little bit, and he was like, no, seriously. He's like, I've given projects before to people, especially Alteryx projects. And he's like, and I have to tell them like, the configuration pane is on the left. Okay, move your mouse over here. Like it's like I'm almost trying to reach on the screen and point.
Yeah.
And he was just excited that I was motivated to do it, and that he would tell me, okay, look at this formula, and I would click on the formula tool and look at it, and he would say it's supposed to be like this. Say, all right, got it. And he was so enthused about that at one point when we were working together, he said, would you like to go to the Alteryx conference? He said, I've been 4 or 5 times. He's like, I have no reason to keep going. It's not, it's a vacation basically. And he said, but you might really get something out of it. And I said, oh yeah, that'd be great. And he said, the company has a couple of seats, and the rest was
Oh
history. I
wow.
went to Inspire in Denver and made all the connections, and 6 months later Alteryx hired me away. But yeah, I just defied his expectations just because he kind of expected a struggle bus to hand off this project. And yeah, not only was I not a total goofball, I was actually motivated to do it. I was excited at the prospect of it, daunted and intimidated for sure, but
Yeah.
it was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like
This is the
this is
stuff
gonna
you're
be my
made
life
of.
now. Yeah.
I love this. This is the stuff you're made of. Like, so what? It's a challenge. No, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. Let's
Yeah.
figure it all out. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's if I did not have that attitude throughout my entire career, I would have stayed in one place.
Yeah.
And never moved forward from it.
Yep.
So I love that. Also just believe there's a lot of value in being able to reverse engineer something.
Yes.
Okay, that's a skill set by itself. So I
Yep.
do want to recognize that there would be some people who lack that reverse engineering skill set and could not dial that back effectively.
Yep.
So kudos for you for not only having data analytics, but having that reverse engineering capability in that gut that just says, okay, well, like I'm sure in the Marine Corps, you didn't get to say, well, I can't do that.
No, not really
Right,
an
right.
option. That was you would be on the receiving end of some colorful language, and then essentially the message would be go figure it out.
Go figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value, and that's something I think that we should highlight about veterans
yeah,
is that they do know. Not everybody, okay, not everybody is the same, but like when you have been brought up in that process, procedure, control, and you know there is an outcome and we're reaching it.
yeah,
I think these make for some great skills for the civilian land.
absolutely.
And I hope people will pick that up and go, okay, well, you've got people who can follow process and procedure, and they've demonstrated it for X period of time, and they've done these things. There's some valuable civilian translation that I'm
Yeah,
not sure exactly occurs unless, again, you care about the military and you hire veterans and you support those activities.
yeah.
All right, last question. Last question. And again, we have so much more we could talk about. We're going to definitely come back together again.
Yep.
I want to hear about your data point. So everybody gets to say their own data point. It's guest choice. So Albert, Bellamy, major data. What's your data point?
It's funny. It's relates back to something that I specifically remember you saying when you were on the podcast with John David,
Okay.
and you both echoed the same thing, that fundamentals are everything in data.
Yes.
That platforms are going to come and go, languages are going to come and go, but that you both said don't be a tool specialist. Don't You're not a Power BI practitioner. You're not. I am not an Alteryx practitioner. I am, but
Yes.
I can pivot to some other platform. Why? Because analytics is in my DNA, natural curiosity, and a decision-making process that just makes sense and was kind of honed in the military. But it's when you look at something and you say, why is that way? And you start breaking it down into its component elements, and you find the crux, or the main part of the problem, and you start digging into it, like you said, reverse engineering. Just but
Yes.
but that's a process. It's a mental process you have to refine. And there are processes in data. You have to have an analytical process. If not, you're kind of cooked,
Yeah.
because then you're
Love it.
just a machine operator, and your
Yeah.
machine is just, it's Tableau or it's Python or it's, but you don't have, if somebody hits you sideways with something or says, hey, the Python's not Pythoning the way it should, figure it out. You don't have the intellectual curiosity, the capability, the process to be able to take that down. You you're kind of half an analyst at that point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think that I see it manifest in so many ways, that the over stress of technical skills, credentialing, the
Yes.
the pieces of paper and the things that we ascribe importance to, even temporarily, it all goes away. And the people that can pivot from one technical thing, one platform to another, are going to stay ahead. So if you
That's
know
right.
what data is supposed to look like and you know how to tackle a problem, AI comes your way and you're like, cool. AI is just another tool to
I
tackle the
love that.
problems that
Yes.
already exist.
Yes. And that fundamental skill, you can always, at a minimum, do the fundamentals and gain a ton.
Yes.
But you do, I'm with you. I think the focus on the hard skills, like you got to be a Power BI, you got to be Alteryx, you got to be Tableau. It's like we were doing all these things before those tools existed.
Mhm.
So what you got to do is you got to do the things those tools do.
Yes.
And then you can figure out how to learn a piece of software.
Yep.
But you got to understand how data is connected, and how do you talk to stakeholders, and how do you work it. I got to tell you, I have loved watching you make this transition, and I can't wait. I'm hoping I can have you come do some Alteryx training for us in our next boot camp.
Yeah.
I can't wait. So
Love it.
before we get out of here, give a shout out to your Data Career Academy and tell us about what we can find on your YouTube.
Absolutely. Data Career Academy is a large effort that I'm putting together. I'm putting together a course that people can go on. It'll be in beta soon. But I did a couple of live cohorts of some training. Right now, I'm doing a podcast. The purpose of Data Career Academy is to ease the transition for analytically minded people into data, because there's
Awesome.
just a lot of disconnects there. There's a lot of misinformation out there, much like, hey, focus on hard skills.
Yeah.
And so what I want to do is I want to talk to people that are hurting for jobs. I want to talk to people that just got a job, find out how they did it. And I want to talk to people that give the jobs to find out what they're looking for. Maybe we can close that information.
So yeah, let me just say thank you on behalf of the industry for being willing to do that. We have to have people who have subject matter expertise in areas also be willing to come and speak to people who are trying. And I think as leaders, we have to do that. And I've definitely watched you live a life that demonstrates that. I applaud you for it. I look forward to promoting it and supporting it. And we'll give you feedback as I can. And yeah, thanks for coming and being here today. Again, I'm a super fan of Major Data, and you know it.
Likewise.
Yeah, I'm very proud to have been any part of your journey, but really just have absolutely enjoyed watching you walk it out and the guts that you do it with. And I think you can be a major inspiration, Major Data, to our veterans and to others who are pursuing data analytics, just with your approach and your attitude. So yeah, let's keep it going, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate
All right,
you,
we'll see you next time.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.